Mike, turn your games down.
Hi everyone, episode 180 of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, who is a stranger with me tonight.
I am Joe Butler, and I like to shove a handful of spiders into my double-barrel shotgun.
I'm just Star. I have nothing else to say. Except I'm horrified. I'll say that.
And I'm Hunter, and I'm more of a bee man myself.
Okay. And Hunter, where can people find you at?
Yeah, I come from VGX7. That's my YouTube channel. You can find me over there. I have my own podcast, Everything You Want, Nothing You Need. And I do a game review show called Ultimate Gaming.
All right, and this week we are here to talk about Oddworld Strangers Wrath that came out in Google 2005 for original Xbox, and then I played the HD version of PC. What about you, Joe?
I got the Switch version.
Okay.
I also did the original PC HD version. Not original, sorry.
Yeah.
I did Switch.
Okay. I played this on PC. Star, did you also play with mouse and keyboard?
I actually did get gamepad working, so I played with an Xbox controller all the way through.
Okay. That you probably had a better experience than I did, though, at first.
Hunter,
yeah.
You played on Switch. Did you use the gyro controls?
No.
Oh, I
Never.
There's gyro controls for this?
Gyro, God.
Yeah, I can't do gyro either. It's okay.
No.
Is that how you aim, then? You just move the switch around to aim?
Yeah, you move the controllers around to aim.
That sounds
Like
miserable.
Splatoon. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
The only game that it was good for, so I was able for everything else is like, I can do it. It's like, no, just don't.
Mhm.
Just walk away.
Okay, and this was developed by Oddworld Inhabitants, and then Just Add Water made the port. And apparently this is on Android phones too? What the
Nice.
hell?
At some point, I guess, because I looked up a video for some small help, and the guy that I was watching was totally playing on a phone, so I'm assuming it was for phone.
I can't imagine playing this on a phone.
Who's playing a game like this on their phone?
You play Fortnite on your phone.
That is true.
Switch,
Okay,
PS4, Xbox One, Android, iOS, Vita, OnLive. You know, Vita's also Vita. That's like reasonable, but yeah, phone, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is kind of strange. Okay, I mean, so I'm assuming my experience then would have been a lot different than yours, because like because playing on keyboard, it took me a while to learn what the hell I was doing with the keyboard, because it's just a very strange thing, because this game is a first-person, third-person shooter that jumps back and forth. So the way I would play it with keyboard, I'd use WASD to move around, mouse to aim, and then I would hit tab to switch from first person to third person, and then hit tab again to switch back. Or when you try to capture an enemy, which is part of the game, you hold down control, and then it flips to third person. You got to hit tab to go back to first person to shoot your guns.
Yeah, I
Sounds
only
awful.
did it for a little bit, and I was like, I couldn't handle it, so I was like, I'm gonna find a way to make this work, because it was not enjoyable in any way. I imagine just a regular controller for how much this game does third person and first person would just be the only real way, or phone apparently.
I mean, it took a while for me to get used to control without having to look at the keyboard and see what I was hitting. It took a long while to understand how to play this game on keyboard. It's not friendly.
This is one of those really weird, like, Xbox original games where you can tell they were totally experimenting with stuff.
I also think it's cool that it's actually an Xbox original game. Like, you don't have a lot of those. Like, because I mean, that's why this one actually was supposed to be on the show from the very, very beginning. I had it on my list, but there's no way to emulate Xbox, and I didn't want to ask people to all go out and buy an Xbox and buy this game, so I didn't end up on the show. And well, there's an HD version, but still, I just didn't bother. But now it's just me. I'm like, fuck it, I'm playing this game finally again. So I do want to ask this: was this everyone else's first time playing this game?
Yes.
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 Okay, so I had played this back in the day, probably over 10 years ago. I played it on original Xbox, and I remember I always had good memories of it, and I'm thankful to say that my memories weren't wrong. So that was nice. That doesn't always happen on the show.
I would say, yeah, because I never played the original Oddworld games that were 2D, but I loved Munch's Odyssey. And so then when I was younger, I wanted to play this, but I never got around to it. So it was nice to play. Don't think I favor it as much. So I think that'll be interesting to talk about later. And it's funny because I recently played Munch's Odyssey, and I had the same feeling. Like, yeah, I like this. It holds up for what it is. And then in this, I was just like, this is a little bit of a drag at some points for me personally.
Oh, it is. I mean, so part of this game is that the character you play as Stranger doesn't like guns. Like you see very early on in one of the first cutscenes that you capture someone, he just does not use guns. He only uses live bait as ammo, and he has to collect different animals that he finds, and he uses them as his weapons.
Honestly, like the most intuitive like way to use live ammo I've seen in them probably a good while.
Taking live ammo literally. Yeah.
I mean, are there any other games that had to use like bugs and things or ammo that you played recently or at all?
Not that I
Usually
know of.
it's like one-off. The one I can think of is, and it's only for a little bit, is Half-Life 2. And you get to summon monsters using like their eggs. Was kind of like, that's the only thing I can think of. I'm sure there are some, but it's pretty rare.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the exact same thing I was thinking of.
I have never played Half-Life 2 or Half-Life 1.
Some audience member just lost their shit
No,
right now.
Yeah, we just lost a listener.
I really need to. I completely agree with that concept. I just haven't done it yet. It was actually almost on the show a couple times, but I need to fix that and play Half-Life 1 and 2 someday. I want to. I just never got around to it. I wasn't a PC gamer until this podcast, so that's my defense.
I mean, there's tons of ways to play. Half-Life 1's kind of weird, and then like, I think I've brought up on the show at least a couple times where the Black Mesa, the fan remake, is really well done and has Gabe Newell's blessing, so that's good.
Yeah, it's an official game now that you can purchase. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah.
So, like, it's pretty well developed at this point, thankfully.
I think the full game's out because I think when it first came out and you could buy it, they didn't have the last part where you go to an alien planet available, but now they do. So
Okay, I own it too. Just never played it. I also own a copy of Half-Life 2 for PS2. I own it on PC. Just never played it.
Half-Life 2 is on PS2.
No, sorry. Half-Life 1 I had on PS2. Sorry.
I was
Okay.
like, what? I didn't know that.
Half-Life 2 was on regular Xbox, I think. Yes. Which I
Yeah, I
have.
think it's
And the
that's where I played.
Which I have to. Just never got to it. But one day. I mean, this game had always stuck with me because of the live ammo. I just got really a kick out of like the way it does the different weapons, and that you have one weapon, but you have different ammos that you get throughout the game that you can use that then stick with you throughout all the game.
Sitting here just thinking, eat your heart out, Pete. It's like, oh, I don't like guns. It's like, nah, but I will shoot 40,000 hornets at a person and just let that play itself out,
And kill them too.
Yeah.
Much less violent.
My favorite thing about this game is the design of the stranger, because I'm such a complete edgelord, and the whole dark, mysterious, brooding cowboy look totally does things for me.
That's Stranger.
Yeah, like I wish I could pull a cowboy hat off, but I just know I can't. So
No, he's a really cool character, and he's very much like a Clint Eastwood meets an animal or some sort
Yes.
type character. I mean, I like it. I also like that all the townsfolk you see are just a bunch of angry chickens. I like that too.
Yeah, they all,
It's
I think
also-
they have, like 2 voices. It's great for the chickens.
there's also a really weird reason why, apparently, too.
What about the chickens?
Yeah.
What's the reason, or what are you
What
talking
do you
about?
mean?
So like the whole thing about Abe, the Abe World series is that it's supposed to be like big companies trying to find ways to keep themselves, I'll hollow out the earth if it makes me $1 million kind of people,
Mhm.
which is
It's like real life.
Yeah, but yeah, and the whole idea is it's supposed to be that, because I was reading some of the stuff off the wiki because I didn't understand the ending at first, and they refer to as colonizers. There's the chickens, and then sea people, and some other stuff too.
I mean, Oddworld games are always known for trying to have a political type thing to their games, and they're very much about environment first, and that's what they were kind of communicating. I mean, Abe's Odyssey is very much about that, and never played Abe's Exodus, and this is also very much about that, just in a different way.
Yeah.
Because in this, you're a bounty hunter going from 3 different towns, like New York City. I love New York City, and just you're going through different towns and capturing bad guys, essentially, that have, so you can raise money to have surgery, which is also very relatable. That you can't have surgery without raising a whole bunch of money.
A mysterious surgery.
Too relatable.
No, it really is.
And yeah, I would say, I don't know. That was a thing as someone who's played Bunch's Odyssey a few times. It's like, I felt like that game, the species they introduced in that game as this other protagonist next to Abe is new as far as I remember. But like everything else in that is pretty referential to creatures like the Mudokons, all these other. In this game, the only character I recognize as like an original that's like a pullback, or sorry, it's from the other series, is the Doctor. And I think I can't remember what they're called.
Oh, he's from the other series? That
Not
race?
that character specific, yeah, but that race is.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
They're pretty prominent even in Munch's Odyssey. Like they are the scientists, and that's like often their job, and that's why I think they have big brains. Essentially, is why they have big old head. So that was, I think, my main experience with that was the only thing that was really disappointing. I was like, they even mention one creature a lot, which is I can't remember what they're called, but they're like basically these like 4-legged like little, just like all they are is like a mouth. And they just like bite, like the characters say
Yes.
them a few times. Yeah, and they're like, oh, I'll feed them to that, and then but like they don't. I've never saw them in this, as far as I remembered. I was just like, it's just weird to be like, it's in the same universe, but there's nothing except like the themes that like really tell you like, oh yeah, it's that character.
I mean, the
You
little
know?
monsters that bite you, those aren't from Abe's Odyssey or anything.
Yes, sorry, that was the one other creature, the fuzzles,
Okay.
because I do love fuzzles, and that was one thing when I played. When I saw trailers for this game and stuff back in the day, I was like, you get to shoot fuzzles, and the fuzzles are great. They're just right in your face the whole game. And I'm like, that's cool. So there are fuzzles, and then there's that one Mudakin, and I think that's it, as far as I can tell.
Okay. There's a Mudakin in this game?
Is it, what are, and it's not the Mudakin then, it's the doctor. I don't remember what
Yeah,
the race
I'm not sure what he is. I never played Munch's Odyssey. I've only
whatever
played
that race is called. It's that
Okay.
thing.
I've only played Abe's Odyssey and then this game twice. That's it of this series.
I'm not gonna lie, this game kind of made me want to go up to my PlayStation right now and buy the full HD remake they just came out with a year ago? as
New
well?
and tasty.
Yeah, the new and tasty.
Yeah, more than a year, but yeah.
I don't know.
Came out in
COVID
2014, by the way.
COVID has done things to time, so
It has.
Oddworld Soulstorm is what you're thinking of, which is a brand new game. The series came out less than a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
Might have been less than a year. That might be what you're thinking of. But
Is
yeah,
that
New and
not a
Tasty,
remake?
2014. No, I don't think Soulstorm's a remake. I think Soulstorm's just a new game.
Oh.
New and Tasty was a remake. I don't know. I don't follow Oddworld. This was really. I mean, I don't care for Abe's Odyssey. I think when I played it last, you can go listen to the episode of me and Hunter on it. I can't remember it, but I don't think I liked it.
Is it because it's gross?
I don't think you did either.
I just didn't like the gameplay.
Hello.
Yeah, that's my downside too. Is like I like Munch's Odyssey, but I don't like any other one. I do like this one. This one was fun, for what it was, and definitely different in a way that's like Viker. That's what they're called. The guy with the big old head, he's called a Viker. And yeah, it's like I don't know why. They're like, yeah, let's pull a Viker. Just one Viker to hang out.
Yeah, I mean, a guy who there's one point when you're looking for him, like, oh yeah, the doctor. I'm the butcher. I mean, the doctor. He's up there because he's not really a doctor. He's just gonna cut you in pieces essentially for the
Mhm.
surgery you need. I think
So,
that's what makes this game so interesting.
Yeah, the story's really good, and honestly, I didn't know where it was going. I've surprisingly not been spoiled, except for maybe like a hint of like the ending. But like I saw where he's wearing his like final outfit in a cutscene before, but it wasn't more than like 2 seconds, so I didn't see what the surprise twist is 3/4 of the way through.
Mhm.
Yeah, I this is technically my first time playing it. Never really been spoiled on it either, and I had a pretty good time with it. Except for the last 10 minutes.
We'll talk about that later.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I went in blind myself.
Yeah, same.
Nice. I'm happy you guys were able to have that experience. I mean, I know when I first played this out, I wasn't spoiled before, but the way the internet now is, it's impressive when people aren't spoiled by stuff.
Yeah.
I find that not always possible.
There's a really good like interest of the story I was talking about a little bit earlier. I really like the trainer's design, and you can always kind of tell there's something up with him. Like the way he talks is real. Like you can tell English is not his first language. His running speed starts up into a 4-legged run. Like really, really peak good character design to where you know something's off and you're wondering where it's going to go. Plus the whole mysterious surgery thing too.
I just couldn't get over how relatable that was. That's which Oddworld does a good job of that. But no, it keeps you very interested. The story always has me wanting to see what was going to happen next. And the gameplay, for the most part, the whole idea is that you either can capture a bounty alive or you can capture a bounty dead, and same with all the enemies that you fight, and you get more money if they're alive. And then use the money to buy upgrades, like new armor, more ammo, of ammo. You can buy ammo, you can buy upgrades to your car. You can hold more of a certain type of ammo, things of that nature. And that's stuff that kept me going. Like so we were talking about this pre-show, but how I was trying to catch bosses alive, but after a while I said fuck it and just started killing everybody because it wasn't worth my trouble.
It's much easier. Yeah.
I caught every single boss alive. You were
Ooh, big shot.
Impressive.
I hated that was the thing that drove me nuts about myself in the first 3/4 of this game was I couldn't kill things. If I kill something, it hurt. And so I think by like the 4th boss, I got an achievement that was like, you've caught 350 enemies. And I was like, oh no. And I don't think I was supposed to get that early. So I made the last third really enjoyable because I was like, oh, it's just ammo now. I'm not like money. All right, that's fine. And so that was my hell that I put myself in.
I captured all enemies alive that I could. I try not to kill enemies, but bosses, I would try, but I mean, it's much like Metal Gear Solid 3 is the best comparison I can think of, where they have a stamina bar and they have a health bar. Certain attacks you do hit their stamina bar, but their stamina bar does refill over time, and certain attacks you do just take out their health. And I just didn't care.
Yeah, I found pretty quickly, and I saw this online, and a video really showed off when I was looking something up at some point for help. The main attack, which is like you have a primary ammo that auto refills itself. Everything else you have to fill. Yeah, that flies. That when it's charged up, combined with the heavy hitter attack, which I can't remember, just a single shot. Like if you just spam those, it can stun lock a lot of the bosses in a way that then you can just get their stamina down pretty fast.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a cheeky way to do it, which helps a lot, because doing it without that is really hard, I found. Without sometimes just killing them accidentally.
I tried to kill. I mean, I was accidentally killing them at first, and after a while, I was like, fuck this, I don't care anymore. I captured the first set alive mostly.
I have a really bad just itch. It's like the Assassin's Creed in me and other games where I just like if it gives you an option to survive to not kill enemies and you get a higher reward for it, I might as well do it, because there's going to be something where it's like, oh, you captured all the enemies alive. Well, now you have enough money to buy this one item, and if you even killed one enemy, you're shit out of luck.
Well, that was another thing too. In Munch's Odyssey, you could save the Mudokons, I think is what Abe is. They are.
Yeah.
You can save the Mudokons, and if you save enough of them and the Fuzzles without them dying, you got a better ending. So I thought also, I was like, maybe that's an element, because again, I went in blind, and then I'm pretty sure from when I looked up, it's not. It's just the same ending, which is fine. But I was like, well, all right, that was another thing. Just
get more money.
Yeah, which there is also a Steam achievement to have. I think it's the $20,000 by the time you go to the doctors, and I just barely didn't have enough for that. So,
so Joe, since you captured everybody, what achievements did you get on the Switch?
You don't get achievements on the Switch. Leave me alone.
I know. I mean, I don't even care. I used to love achievements when I was an Xbox achievement whore at one point, but now I just see achievement top, I'm like, oh, that's nice. Okay, and I just keep going what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah,
I just hope I
just pulled it up, and I'm like, oh,
yeah. I hope I stumble across an achievement these days.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I'll purposely do stuff sometimes thinking, well, what if they'll give me an achievement? And I'll purposely do something special, but that's about it. I just don't look or care. I'm not like some people that Emmanuel, that trophy hunt that I know. So those are the days. But I do like the whole bounty system. I like the fact that this game is very where you go into town, you go to the bounty store, you get bounties, and you get all these different very Western stereotype characters that are like essentially monster type animal creatures, and then you go in after the bounty, and you have like a little mini section where you go through a level to get to this guy. Now he's got really funny shit they say too.
Yeah, you have one thing that I think what turns a lot of people off from these games. These games are really dirty, both grimy looking, and the language is just foul.
Mm-hmm. This one was foul.
Yeah.
Because, foul birds.
Yeah, I got it. I think that was something also I liked a lot about Munch's Odyssey. It's just something that sticks out, is that there was a lot more banter and conversation and characters, like having the very rich bigwigs in like these suits, and they have this voice where money, and like they had all these characters. But in this, it was like there's a few characters, like all the enemies for the first 3/4 of the game, like the basic enemies, basically the same voice until they start introducing variants. And so it was kind of something that was different, and a little I was like, it's kind of disappointing. But I think also, as we mentioned privately, the company, this was their last game for a long time, and
yes,
I have a feeling kind of they were at their ends meeting. They're like, oh, we can make one chicken, and that's going to be there, or like 3 chicken models for 3/4 of the game. That's going to be civilian population. That's it. Keep going.
Because I know this is published by EA, and EA did not do a good job of marketing this game at all. EA just didn't care. Which, I mean, I don't know if you can believe that EA would not care about something, but
Does EA give a shit about anything? Dead Space.
And it was actually reviewed really well, surprisingly. It was like 80s and 90s for the time.
Yeah, it was
just kind of sad. But it was reviewed really well. And
it sold like shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which, from what I was reading or listening to, it was because of marketing they blamed, which was sad.
I also kind of blame the Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, an Xbox exclusive at that time, I don't think Xbox was that
get a bigger push.
Yeah, but my own Microsoft was in a good state at that time, maybe, or something.
I remember just back then, the Xbox was like way more than a PS2. the damn thing was like twice the size. Because I want to say when the Xbox came out, like the PS2 was already starting to release their slim version. So it's like,
Yes.
hey, do you want this slim PS2, or do you want this thing that's bigger than your fucking VCR?
I mean, Xbox was late, and it wasn't even like there weren't a lot of games for Halo at first, and people just weren't. I mean, I remember talking shit about the Xbox when it first came out. And I have over 300 Xbox 360 games to my right of me. Like, I talked shit about the system. I remember, like, bullshit. Nintendo, Sony, that's all we go. We don't need this Microsoft crap. Then I joined the cult. I didn't like Halo.
I was 10, and it was the first console that was mine, so I loved it.
I mean, I remember one of my early experience with Xbox in general was somebody had one. He's like, hey, I got all these games on here. I just pirated them on my system. And you could do that. I'm like, oh. But yeah, no, you're right. This is a huge thing, and it's just kind of odd. Plus, it wasn't a system that needed a shooter. It already had Halo, so it didn't need this. I'm happy it had this, but I can see that might have hurt it too, especially if EA wasn't doing what they should have been doing as publisher.
As
I can believe. Well, EA is kind of shitty, aren't they?
Let's see. We have on Xbox in 2005, right?
Yes.
Jade Empire, Forza, Burnout, Madden 06, Doom 3.
I like Doom 3.
Yeah, I know you do. Mercenaries, Psychonauts, King Kong,
I like that game.
Conker's Remake, Ninja Gaiden Black, Tony Hawk, Ultimate Spider-Man, Gun,
I like
Call of Duty,
Yeah, this list compared to this game, it's like the game isn't bad. I think the game deserves to be pretty well praised in some ways, but when you put it up against all that other stuff, it's like, yeah, who cares? And if you're not going to market it well,
add some
why?
competition.
Yeah, and Oddworld is not a really strong brand. I mean, this is also the first Oddworld. Well, no, Munch's Odyssey, the first game that wasn't on Sony. So, I mean, Oddworld is not a big brand either. I think Munch's Odyssey didn't do good either on Xbox, but they still got this somehow out the door. But I don't know, the Captain the Bounty thing was really cool for me, even though most of them were all dead, but it still felt good.
I had a lot of fun, especially because you just suck them up into a big Danny Phantom jar.
Yeah, was that ever explained or mentioned, like what that thing was? Okay.
Nope.
I bet the only place I bet it might be is the booklet, even if it just was like a name and then a sentence. But like, yeah, I was like, we're just not talking about the weird. Like, I've looked at it a few times when you're sucking things. I was like, it's just a green void in there. Who knows?
Oh, and I also have to say the subtitles do not match what the people say either.
No, they do not.
I actually played this game with sound on, which anyone knows me knows that's not normal, but I did because I had to because I couldn't. The subtitles were wrong all the time.
I know.
And it didn't give you subtitles for the random shit people would say when you're walking around, or like what the villains would say when they're talking to you, like, oh, I think he's over there. None of that would be in subtitles. And that helped me know, okay, they're onto me.
Yeah, I didn't actually know. I didn't realize that subtitles. I would have put them on, so I played a whole thing without.
With the comment I have to make. So anyone who listens to the show a lot, or listens to Joe, who's on the show a lot, he always makes the joke. Well, if I had a nickel, when I was walking around, one of those dumb chickens said, if I had a nickel for every time Joanna didn't go out with me, I'd have 2 nickels or something like that. I'm just like,
gee, thanks, Mike, comparing me to a weird skinless chicken.
It's just hilarious that you say it. I mean, that it was in this game that somebody else made that same joke.
Yeah,
it made me laugh. It really did. It's a strange game.
Yeah, I think I liked the bounty thing at first, but then like definitely the last set of bounties, I was like, okay, I'm done with this and I'm ready to move on to. I think I'm hoping there's something else because like. It just felt like kind of the same thing. And for me, I don't know, it like going through areas, I actually played on the hard difficulty. I was just pretty bored a lot of the time. Like there was only ever, I think basically one in every 3 or 4 bosses had an area that like was challenging, but everything else I was kind of just walking through, knocking like 2 or 3 dudes out at a time. Like I think early on, it's like, here's how to do stealth with like luring. I never did that. I would just kind of section enemies off, knock them out, suck them up, and then go back and heal. Because also the fact that this game's like, yeah, just heal yourself whenever. I was like, hey, I appreciate it, but also that makes it feel really easy to run away really fast and just get yourself fixed up, maybe wait a second, then go.
So you speedrun this game. That's the way the speedrunners play. They don't fight people. They just run.
Yeah. I could see running
Halo.
through and getting to the boss and then knocking them out using that method. And then just because a lot of times, a lot of the areas I noticed when you get the boss, they're like, oh, let's get out of here. And you're like, all right, cool. Thanks.
They give you a lot of solo fights with bosses, or they'll do parts where you get to the boss, and after you take out the boss, capture him or kill him, then something will open up nearby. You can jump in there and then escape.
I will say that it was nice. It was very rarely. It was like, all right, now go back the way you came. It was always, I think almost always like, here's a route. That's a shortcut home.
Yep, almost everyone is.
Yeah.
Which is nice. And this game doesn't make you kill everybody except for a couple parts. Or there's one you have to go rescue a chicken, and he won't come out of the cell unless you take out everyone else in the room.
Yeah, and then I those small missions that were slightly different were such nice breaths of fresh air. Like the one, even though it was a bounty, getting to do a cart ride, I was like, hey, it's different. It's something. Fine, let's go.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Well, the one boss that gave me the most trouble, where I actually was debating, like, why am I not emulating this somehow, but I can't, was the guy that had the freaking force field and shot missiles at you. You remember that boss fight? I think it's Explosive McGee.
Yeah, the shield.
That was miserable. You had to literally shoot 4 let's just say 4 sparkling things that had electricity, and his shield was shut down, but the entire time he's shooting missiles at you that track you.
And then the flamethrower guy shows up. Mid-fight, yeah.
And turrets show up too, mid-fight.
Yes.
I don't know. Did you have any questions about how to capture him? Because I did. So that was my focus for that fight.
I just shot him with boom bats or whatever I had until he died. You can knock him off the platform. He's also on a platform that you can't get to him, but if you hit him enough, he'll fall off the platform or he'll come down if you hurt him enough.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, is if Joseph... Because I couldn't figure out how to capture him, because I was like, how do I get him off this platform and won't let me up? And then I looked it up, and someone was like, oh, shoot a fuzzle up there. And then he falls down, and then you stun lock him, so I was able to get him on the first run, like the first cycle. If you bring him down and you stun lock him using that method so he can't get back up and use like a fuzzle to bring him down, that was it. And I was like, wow, this... Because even that first section of that fight, I was like, wow, this is awful. I would hate to do a whole fight like this, so I'm really glad someone was like, hey, just fuzzle him. You're good. And I'm like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, mine said to use a boom bat and knock his fat ass down and then just stun lock him. Yeah, but most of these bosses usually center around stun locking just the ever-loving shit out of them and then just capturing them alive.
Okay, I didn't do that. I did not play that way.
No.
I hated that boss so much. That was the worst boss for me in this game.
Yeah, it was
that bastard.
Definitely one of my least favorites. And I think also another part that I liked in the first 3/4 of this game was when every now and then it would be like, hey, here's a little bonus thing to go do. And the one I can think of is the farmer's house. Did any of you guys do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, so there's just a part where the guy's like, hey, the farmer has a bunch of money in his house, and it's a town you have to come back to later. But if you go in, you can just break into his house. And if he finds you, so I think you could stealth it, I have a feeling. But if you don't, he's just following around going, what are you doing at my house? Hey, you're at my house. And then you leave after you get his money. And it's like a nice little chunk of change. And then he goes, that dude stole my money. And then everyone runs to their house and starts shooting at you. And I was like, this is really fun little side thing, and it made me kind of wish there was more stuff like that in this game almost, because I feel like a lot of time, otherwise it's just streamlined from boss to boss to boss. But doing just a small thing like that, it made it a lot more I was like, oh, something different to do that was interesting. And then again, I will plug, I do think Munch's Odyssey is the main route instead of bounty hunting is getting from point A to point B, saving various creatures. But there's some of that in there where you can kind of go to little things, and it's just like, oh, it reminds me of that in a way that I like.
Now you see, Star, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to go up to him and be like, hi, I'm the guy here to deliver your money. And he goes, oh, okay. And then he fucks off and you go grab all his money.
Are you serious? Oh, that makes so much more sense.
Now, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I know a lot of I've tried running through this game, doing his four-legged dash, and one of the things in the strategy guide I was reading says be very careful doing that, because if you run into chickens will drop the moolah, and if you hit too many of them, they will have a turrets drop down from somewheres and just shoot the ever-loving shit out of you.
It happened to me once. And it was in the first town. And because I noticed one drop money, I was like, that's funny. And then I punched another one. They're like, oh, everyone get them. And they all ran in. And then, that's what happened. It was, you just have to wait a few minutes. And then they're like, all right, that's enough of this. Let's stop. And then they all just come back out. And it's funny how easy you can just be sprinting through a town and be like, whoops, sorry, keep running.
Yeah, I ran into a chicken here and there, would take their money and keep going. But I didn't do more than one at a time over the few cases I did it.
I also hated the boss in the town. That was one of the first
parts
where I had to really work.
That was hard.
On hard, I was like, oh, wow, I really have to cheese some of these first enemies and just get them out of the way, because, there's just so much gunfire right off the bat.
Yeah, that was where I really had to start using a version of save states where I was saving, loading, and did a lot of hiding at the time, because that was the only way to get through it. Oh, we kind of explained it, but the way you heal in this game is you can run and you can then you have a stamina bar that will fill up. You run away somewhere, and then you hit like a button, and then he'll use up his stamina, which only is used to heal you, and heal himself and like shake it off.
And you can use it. It's used in certain things, like I think melee attacks in certain, because sometimes I would like go to heal and then use the like, or I'd just be out of stamina from running. It's very rare what uses stamina in this, which is interesting, except healing, which I mean, it's nice for what it is.
Okay,
then.
I didn't know. I don't think running. I don't remember running. No, I didn't notice running ever draining it.
I think it was like sometimes I'd go to punch when my stamina bar was empty and he wouldn't punch. There's like a few things that like I think is a downside of not having a stamina, and I was like, okay, but it's very hard to notice because it's mostly just like, hey, healing.
It's your healing bar.
Yeah. I know one thing which is kind of saved my ass a couple times in this is if you're low on stamina and you have there's a downed enemy, if you just capture them, it'll give you like a chunk of stamina back.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I noticed.
It's part of the trick that you're supposed to, hurt people, take out people, healed, and then you capture an enemy, get more stamina, heal some more. Like it's part of the whole gameplay loop. But the thing is, you die so quickly in this game. Like this Stranger, it cannot take hits. Like he cannot be out in the open fighting for long. They will massacre him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't like. I don't like how fragile he is. It didn't.
Did you guys all play on normal or easy?
I'm playing it easy. Come on, it's me.
Yeah.
Normal.
I did normal.
Yeah, because I don't know what the difference with hard is. I was kind of curious on something to look up, but yeah, like same thing, just like very little health. I'm guessing it's that because like I'm trying to think for reference because I don't think there's health upgrades. I know there's stamina upgrades, but I don't think there's any health upgrades in this game.
Just armor that you get throughout the game that does cut down how much damage you take.
Okay, because from like early on, like when they introduced the sniper for reference, I think like 3 or 4 sniper shots would still kill me on hard, like from full health. Like
they do about what it is on easy and normal.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I'm wondering. Interesting, because it
doesn't take much.
It's very much so.
Sniping will murder you in this game. You can snipe too. You have like dragonflies, I think, or are they not dragonflies? What the hell? You have like mosquito-looking things you can use as sniper ammo.
Stinger bees.
Okay, we haven't talked much about the ammo. The one that we keep mentioning, your little fuzz or little furry things that you can use. You can set as traps, or you can put them somewhere and an enemy runs by, they'll jump on the enemy, or you can shoot them at an enemy and they bite them and hurt them.
Yeah, so there's the fuzzles, and then I mentioned that there's wasps/hornets that are like a machine gun.
Yep.
There's just kind of a few standard stuff. Like there's one that's like an explosive. There's
boom bat.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any that were like really neat. There's one that's just like a bludgeoning ball.
Yeah, they're like a pill bug.
Yeah, and like so, they're pretty like it's pretty standard sort of gun styles, but they're just ammo, which is
And the bola spider, which is essentially you shoot a spider that then wraps people in a web, and I like it when it wraps in the web because it also covers their mouth too, so as you're going to capture them.
Yeah, the spider was cool.
And it's a good way to take out groups of enemies. I would shoot a group, start capturing them, and then midway, and then after I capture one guy, shoot the group again, so everybody stays in their webs, and then just keep capturing.
Yeah, it was a real game. I found out of how to stun as many as possible and then keep them stunned, because usually depending on how the method of stunning is only like 5 or 10 seconds. So if you stun a few of them, you might be like, oh, the skunk bomb, that was one where like it'll stun a group of enemies, but really for like only enough time to capture like one. So it's it's weird.
I didn't use the skunk at all.
I only did because again, when you're trying to get a group of enemies, it's like, hey, I can stop 4 dudes at once, suck up one, and then shoot another one and just spam it like that, things like that.
I heard it's a good weapon. I just never used it.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Okay. What about you, Joe?
I use all kinds. First, I did start off that way where I would just sit there and just spider the ever-loving hell out of most of them. And what was it? Eventually, towards the end, especially when killing didn't matter anymore, usually just lots of hornets. I did like the main like, was it like the stinger fly? The zap fly. The zap fly was also really cool to use. I just wish there was maybe an upgrade to where it was always electric, but it's game mechanics. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it takes a couple seconds once you switch to first person mode or after you shoot a shot before it charges up. And when it's not charged up, it's pretty much useless except for shooting little animals to get more ammo, because you will find little animal trails and they have like little nests, and that's how you get your ammo.
Because I mean, yeah, we've mostly been talking about a lot of this from the first, I don't know, is it 3/4, 2/3, whatever, but like the last, the last fourth, I think, is just a really different part of this game where there's no more bounties. And I like I said, I like that section a lot because I suddenly was like, oh, I'm not worried about like money, and there's a lot more like plot happening. And then I now was using a bunch of new different ammo that I'd had this whole time but not been using. So like getting to just use the Hornets free reign was very satisfying when I wasn't using them at all before, because I was like, oh, it'll kill them. I can't do that.
No, I didn't want to kill anybody. I wanted to capture them.
Yeah,
But,
so
like,
I love that part of the game. Just
the
like,
whole-
and it's basically just a long gunfight mission, essentially.
Yeah,
Like once
it's-
you get to it.
like the whole thing of this game, like the story wise, is you're going to get these bounties, get surgery, and then at a certain point, I think after the first town, he ends up getting somebody tells him, he's like, hey, if you can get a Steve, this guy will pay you 20 grand, or you'll pay him whatever. And he's like, oh, I want 20 grand. And then he makes a phone call to one of his goons that's like, okay, if you hunt this guy down, he knows where you can find a Steve. Steve is like this, the way they show you, they make it look like this big fierce monster with giant horns that runs on 4 legs, or it's like a centaur. And that's kind of like the whole idea is that, because he says, oh, I know where to find a Steve. And the guy's like, well, there's no Steve around here anymore. And then that's kind of where the story goes. And like it stays in the bounty section until you end up getting to a point where you finally are confronted by the guy who was hired by Secto, which is the guy you called that was hunting for the Steve. And then you have a part where you have to lose and they capture you, which I didn't know that at first. And I was trying to survive. And then I just died. So, well, oh, well. Then I'm like, oh, game over.
Yeah, and then I'm assuming, major spoilers upcoming, because that's always free range on this podcast.
The game came out in 2005.
A big plot twist.
Yeah,
I mean, if you get upset about something that came out in 2005 that I spoil,
and then it's revealed that, you've actually been playing as Steve, who's hiding his identity because all the Steve were hunted, and he's supposedly, the last of his kind. So then, he gets disrobed, and then the rest of the game, you're not hiding, you're a Steve. And then that part was actually really fun, too, and sad, where, like, basically, your clothes are torn off, and then you break free, and then you run into town because you lose all your gear, and then everyone's just shooting at you because they're scared. And it was like, oh, it is kind of sad to be like, oh, people just look at you like a wild, scary animal. And then the rest of the game, it's you going and getting to, what was his name? I forgot. You just said it.
Secto.
Yeah, because Secto clearly is a person who's been hunting all the Steves. So you're like, oh, I must get my revenge and avenge my people and protect these little, I can't remember their name either. I like the little
lizard guys.
Yeah, I did like them. I like them more than the chickens. The chickens, it's pretty quick. I was like, oh, I'm tired of this thing. I gotta think of them. I was like, oh, it's all right, little lizards. I'll help you.
You're not meant to like the chickens. I mean, I think the chickens are supposed to be very much of white colonization, like we were talking about a little bit before, and then the lizard guys are more like Native Americans, and this is their land that's being invaded.
I think my favorite part is their voices. Is because they all sound the same, and it's just a really silly voice just to use.
You see, I just view them like, I get that analogy. I always just kind of view them as like the blue collar workers, just like the people like, yeah, I'm just out here doing my stuff, got a farm. Like, yeah, exactly. So I hated them as beings in this game that annoy me with characters. I'm like, yeah, they're just vibing, and then because then Secto also stealing all the water from the geckos. So when you get to the geckos and they're like, oh, hey, we won't kill you. And also your people protected our people when they were alive and we like you and we think you're really cool. Can you help us? And you're like, yeah, I'll help you. And then that's the last third of the game is you storming his compound and getting revenge.
I also like the stuff when it comes to like when he's captured because like they at first they don't take off his pants. He still has his boots on and he's hiding his back feet in the boots. And then they get the surgery. They open the surgery thing where it shows that he's going to cut off his hindquarters. Like, wait a second. And they strip him naked, essentially. I found that funny. They're like, take off his boots. Essentially, take off his pants off.
Yeah.
And then they see that he has 4 legs. They're like, he's a Steve.
And also I'm assuming he cut off his own antlers. It's not, I think it's basically seems like the most logical thing. Because So yeah, it's really, I don't know. It's the story of him is very sort of like, I want to say, not mild, but just like quiet. But like, obviously that's the big term. But then by that point, it's like, oh, this is neat. And then it's like, okay, well, we're finishing the game. But it's really neat, like how it's the background focus of what's going on outside of the front focus, which is Clint Eastwood bounty hunter in an Oddworld universe,
And then when you kill people, you can either capture them, but also when you kill, or not capture them, you can capture them, they're dead and you get some money. But also when they die, a lot of times they drop little gold sacks you can pick up. One way to get gold. Because
there'd be certain enemies you like couldn't capture, like usually snipers. Anytime you'd shoot them out of anywhere or bump them out, they'd be like, oh, then they're dead. Couldn't do anything there.
Or when you get to a certain point, you just stop caring. Because even with me killing a lot of people, like killing a lot of the bosses, I still had enough money to buy almost everything in this game. The only thing I didn't buy is because I neglected to buy a couple things in the first town, thinking I'll just buy them later, and then they weren't there anymore.
So. I mean, for reference, like I think the Hornet ammo, which essentially assault rifle ammo in this, it's like 2 for every 1 shot, and it's like 500 is your starting capacity, and like there's so much money by the time money is no longer a thing in this game, literally, that you could have apparently 20,000 moolah to get the that trophy or achievement. So like,
you can have more than that.
You could just stack up real fast if you're capturing everything. And yeah,
because I captured all the little guys. Every room I went into, I would knock out everybody because I just wanted to get as much money as I could so I could get all the upgrades. And that was my mindset. And I had a point where I had like ended the game with like over $6,000 I didn't need because there weren't any more upgrades. Because this game is broken up into 3 towns, and after the 3rd town is when you get captured, and then the game is broken into the final part where you're working with the geckos, and you get a cool boat. I want to talk about the boat because I was really surprised how much I liked this boat. Was I the only one?
Yeah, that was fine. Like, I don't know. It's nothing about it made it special to me. It was just a way to traverse. I don't know.
It had a turret that, auto shot people. That was pretty cool.
That is very cool.
I like the turret. I also like that when you see the little oil barges, if you shoot all the barrels on the little oil bars, the thing will sink.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. As another thing to remind me of that, when you're doing the cart mission, I don't know if you guys did this, but you could pre-shoot the like explosive barrels that would knock out the floor, and then the enemies would come to leave and they would just run and spot because the floor was already missing. I like that. I was like, oh, okay.
That was
cool. One thing before we completely segue off of the first 2/3 of the game, Star, did you kill or did you capture everyone alive or kill?
Yes, at least all the yeah, I mean basically, yeah.
Oh, what about you, Hunter? Did you manage to?
No, I'm just like, there's no witnesses if everyone's dead,
Not wrong.
Yeah, it's just like a Dishonored, and I can't play what is that other game that was re-released recently for Square Enix bought it.
Deus Ex?
Deus Ex. Yeah, I can't play Deus Ex because I can't kill people. It's just you tell me it's a better ending, I can't do it.
I made terms with that pretty quickly in this game. I had to because I couldn't figure out how to freaking I would try to knock out people and and I wouldn't knock them out and they just kept. I'm like, fuck it, fine, I don't care anymore.
I mean, yeah, and that's why I really like the ending just section where you just it's just a run and gun essentially, and then the ending was neat that it was someone mentioned they had to look it up to sort of verify, but I liked just the ending overall, and I don't know, it was funny to me that there was cliffhanger too. Then I was like, oh well, that's sad.
Well, I also in the second half or the last quarter of the game, you fight completely different enemies that all look like weasel security guards. Essentially, they're all employed by Secto because the final part is you end up doing a bunch of things where you have to protect these towns of the geckos to then finally get to the dam, and a lot of that you just take the boat and you're just following the boat, and you have a lot of interesting parts. I thought. I mean, the game changed a lot once it was no longer about money.
Yeah, which as I said, I like that section more. I also, the tone sometimes was surprising. There was, the first 3/4, I think, are very, I don't want to say slightly immature, but comedic, just Oddworld humor, which is in the other games. But, I don't know, the last 4th has some of that, but, I don't know, there's a part where a gecko walks in and he's been shot, and he looks like he's bleeding. I was like, geez, that's these little sad guys just mutilated. And I guess, there's brutality, but I don't know. There's parts where, it just felt serious and a little darker and then it would go back to the other tone. I was like, I liked it. I liked the writing a lot throughout.
I mean, think about it. With in the last part of the game, you get ammo by catching people and you put them inside your ammo bag and it eats them and turns them into more ammo.
You don't think about it. You're capturing them. It's fine.
Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's worse than you're not even just killing people. Oh, hey, look, I'm alive. What the fuck is that little frog? Someone just eats him while he's inside a bag.
And now he's 7 fuzzles or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a little terrible.
But no guns. Guns aren't cool.
No, never.
I mean, I think guns might be more friendlier than the fact that you're taking people and having them murdered inside your bag so that your ammo can multiply, that you're then going to shoot at other people, right? Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. As long as no guns. Just no guns. Guns are bad.
Look, I may not use guns, but I sure do have this bat that has dynamite stuck up its ass and shoot at people. Okay, it's
as one does.
Yeah, no guns.
Because the ammo as the game progresses, you get to upgrade all your ammo. They all look a little different as the game progresses. We also get chipmunks. We haven't mentioned that you can shoot chipmunks and then they will piss off the enemies and they'll come and try to step on them, and that will attract them and you can go and get them in a group to get them away and stuff. This game is very big on stealth when you're not actually being stealthy.
Yeah, as I said, in the beginning, it's here's how to use the chipmunks for stealth, and I was like, and I'm never doing this again. I can't imagine. I think I probably shot 15 of them throughout the entire game, and that was it.
They're just not that useful. I mean, I'd use them sometime, but it was for me, it was almost just faster just to, I don't know, I didn't care.
Yeah, I feel for balance and mechanics, it feels very easy to glass cannon, where it's you could I could not imagine. I'm sure someone has done a full stealth around this game. It would take so long. as opposed to just let me lure 3 enemies around the corner, knock them out, suck them up, and then go get just do that 3 times. As well as like, oh, let me suck one here, maybe get like knock 2 out at a time. They're separate. Like, oh, I couldn't imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's these weird options like at the last half of the game where there's like, what do you call them? They have like those big metal boxes up in the sky, and you can hit buttons to drop them. But it's the weird thing where like you could do that, and it's really cool you could do that, but there's no point because you're standing around the corner to launch the little decoy chipmunk, and the enemies still see you before they can get to the chipmunk, and so there's no point in trying to lead them over there.
Well, I didn't use the chipmunk form. What I would do is I'd let them see me, they'd run, and I'd run away, they'd run toward me, and I'd drop it on them.
Oh, okay.
I use myself as bait.
Because, yeah, that was a thing of my own brain that was annoying. It's like, oh, like, I've noticed that there'd be these cool... I think I only did it once. Like, the first time I noticed, like, it was like, I think it's like a crane holding, like, a heavy rock, and there's an electric switch you can trigger. And I did it, and then it killed 2 guys, and I was like, oh, whoops, I guess I'm never doing that again. And then throughout the first 3 fourths, there was many times where it was like, hey, look, here's 3 dudes you could murder. And I'm like, yeah, or I could suck them up and get more money, so I'm not doing that. And it was kind of...
Yeah, I didn't want to murder people either, so I wanted money.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like some of the... Also, another one was, there's and this reminded me of something in Munch's Odyssey, there's like blades that you can knock dudes into. I think when you're raiding one of the bosses, he's like holed up in a fortress, like a small little fortress pretty early on. And there's a switch you can trigger that takes one of the platforms and angles it down and throws them into these like big spinny blades. And I was like, I'm not doing that, but that'd be really cool if I did do it because I need money.
Oh, you thought that? Because I sat there and went, oh, I wonder what this does, and I fucking fell in it, and I lost. I lost like 10 minutes of fucking progress. So.
Oh, I'm really glad the HD has quick save, but man, there were so many times I would probably waste like 20 minutes in the hardest areas just forgetting to quick save after I got a section. I'm like, damn it, I gotta do it next time, and then I wouldn't, and I was like, oh, this is how it felt back in the day, and this is awful.
Always quick save, and then save again in case you forgot.
Did you guys get lost in the valley part? On the 3rd city, you have this giant valley that you're constantly running around to go to the graveyard. Did you guys? I kept getting lost in that valley constantly. The wildlands, where you go find that one animal to get the noise, get the call. Mongol wilds.
No, because I use a strategy guide.
I got lost 3 to 4 times in that area. I just could not figure out how to get back. I kept going in circles and could not figure out how to get back to the town.
Yeah,
I was getting very upset that I didn't have a map.
It was something that sometimes was weird that like sometimes when you'd go to activate a quest, maybe it's just early on, but even did it later, you would get a little mini radar in the town and there'd be a white dot telling you where to go. And then other times it wouldn't do that and you'd have to go talk to somebody and then be like, oh, it's at this place. And then you'd have to follow a sign, like, little arrows. And it was a weird blend between that I kept seeing.
I never noticed a radar. I would just follow signs where they say, okay, this is over here, or this is the power plant, this is the sewer tunnel.
There was only a few times, and it was probably because I would, like I said, I noticed it a lot in the first town. Then once I got to like later towns, I wouldn't. And it's probably because maybe I was going through some of the later hunts quicker. Because then I'd be like, oh, I have to go hunt Boomy McBoomface, and I'm like, where do I go for that? And then I talked to somebody, and that was nice. Is a thing that you could talk to people, and they would tell you very directly, like, oh, you should follow the sign to this location.
Talk to yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that's something I really want to point out because I thought that was really cool. This game has so much completely optional dialogue for every basically quest progress that you've made. If you just sit there and tap X, he'll say like 2 or 3 different lines. I can't imagine how much they had him record for just those, and then like people probably never hear them. Like there was a part where it's after you see the doctor for the first time. Before you walk out of the doctor's office, if you hit the talk to yourself button, he has like 3 different lines of dialogue. And I was like, that's really neat. I wonder how many people have never done that because it's literally like a 3-second walk from the cutscene ends, leave the room. And I was like, God, that must suck to have all these lines recorded and be like, yeah, 95% of people never heard half of them. Sorry.
That's cool though.
I thought I wanted to do a shout out effects. I thought it was neat. And again, it just reminds me of the writing that was also in like Munch's Odyssey. That's like, it's really neat that this stuff is here. Also, another one, which I totally forgot about. I couldn't even find the button for it. Do you guys remember buying the binoculars?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you guys use them at all? Because I couldn't figure out how to do it and I wasn't that interested, but there was a part of time where I was like, I wonder what they would be saying because it sounds kind of fun.
I only used it for sniping.
Same.
Yeah, I used it once or twice.
Yeah, okay.
Not extensively.
For me, it was X. I would hit X and that would pull up my sniper.
Yeah, it just seemed because when I remember reading, it was just me like, yeah, you can listen to people's conversations. And again, just go back to like, I wonder how much writing is in this game that I'm just not hearing, and it made me kind of sad. The writing's usually pretty funny. Like the password to get into the place, that was a nice little joke. Of it's the only time they make this joke of a conquer moment where it's like, oh, you need a password, go talk to this guy. You talk to the guy, he's like, oh, I hate that guy. the password's beep, and he's like, the password's bleep, and he goes, yep, and then you go to the door and you say the password and it bleeps out, and the door guy just goes, I love making people say that. I was like, that's a really good little funny joke that they did. You know?
I didn't think about that. That is like Conkers.
Yeah, it is, and it's just they only do it once, and that's what I liked is like they just do this one-off joke, and it's like the writing in this game, and again, I will say a lot of this, and I will just keep plugging this. The writing in Munch's Odyssey is really good, and it's really like some of it's just very kind of lowbrow, toilet crude humor, but sometimes that's funny. But then other times it's like there's just nice little moments that I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty funny. Thanks, game.
I know. I know one thing because we all played the HD technically remake of this, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Every time you go back to town, there's a loading screen where you have to fear your weapons get taken away. That got cut for the HD remake.
Oh, that would be
What?
awful.
Ooh. Yeah.
What are you talking? Every time it loads, like it takes away all your ammo.
Yeah, they
Because when you're in town, you can't really pull out your guns 85% of the time. Very rarely it'll let you. So yeah, I guess in the original, what you're saying is you would go to town, it would load just to remove the guns.
yeah.
God.
It shows that in the first time you go to the first town. Like you walk in and the chicken goes, "Oh yeah, hey stranger, welcome back to town. Oh, we're gonna take your weapons away from you." And one of the things that they did for the HD remake was that they cut that scene every time you go back into town.
Oh,
And every town does that.
Oh, that's horrible. Thank God.
Yeah.
I thought about, because I have my original Xbox, I thought about trying to get a copy of this game. I'm so glad I didn't. That would have been hell.
That would have pissed me off a lot.
And yeah, something I saw online, and I'm curious if you guys noticed this, because I really didn't. Like, I think this game graphically is fine, especially considering how old it is and like the touch-ups they've done. I'd say environment-wise, it feels kind of bland from beat to beat, like in the first 3/4. Eventually, it starts to like do different stuff. But someone's like, oh yeah, the graphics don't really hold up. Like some of the furniture is like they still have that like old style like etched onto the walls. And I was like, I didn't even notice that. So
I didn't either.
yeah,
like
so
a texture.
like textured walls and stuff. So I was surprised because I was like, I thought it was fine. It's dated, but not bad. Where it's like, oh, this is completely unplayable graphically,
The HD version I thought was still pretty.
Yeah, like that's
Mhm.
that's why I was wondering if you guys had that feeling because I thought that when I read it, I was like, really? I was like, I liked it enough. It was never a point in the game where I was like, oh, this is really ugly,
Oh, and I didn't say that the HD version came out in 2011.
Oh wow.
Switch was 2020, but the
Wow.
original HD version on PS3 was 2011.
Wow.
Damn, the game is over 10 years old even for the HD version.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, and I think I don't know. It's just I think as a 10-year-old game, it's fine. There is many worse 10/15-year-old games that.
Oh yeah, no, I had no problem with the graphics whatsoever. I had no problem with the sound design. None of that. I thought the game was just fine.
I think the game was pretty fine until the last 10 minutes.
So the last part is you after you go and rescue the geckos, you end up going to this giant dam where Secto is, and then you fight tons of enemies and get inside this giant dam to then get to him. This is where the difficulty really ramps up in there. And what Joe is referring to, you have a part where you get a time limit and you have to run through this big room in under 3 minutes, which is plenty of time, and it is a bitch. So I'm assuming that's what you're referencing, right? That terrible time part?
Oh yeah, totally. What is it? We were talking about it earlier. I kept dying. I kept trying to quick save and try to find ways. And God forbid, I didn't know if you hold down the run button and that new charge attack you have, he will go like 3 times faster. So my dumbass is trying to sit there and waddle through the normal way. And I just kept getting my ass handed to me. So, that made me feel tons better.
That explains a little bit because I was here like it wasn't. I didn't like
Wasn't that
it.
bad
It was one of the
either.
harder parts, but it wasn't that bad. I had other parts that I hated a lot more, but like that makes a lot more sense. And I'm like, yeah, that would do that, wouldn't it?
When you unlock the Steef ability, you can hit in my case, right trigger on the mouse, and then he would start to charge faster, and that way, if you run into somebody, he would keep charging. Where normally, if you're running and you hit something, he stops, which is terrible. And you go slower. I mean, you can still go fast, but not as fast if you're charging. And then for that part, you're supposed to try to avoid as many people as you can, and running is a great way to do that with a charge attack.
Can't imagine doing that part without that. You poor bastard.
I mean, eventually I figured it out and got through it. But then
The end of the game. Literally at the end of the game.
I almost quit. I almost just said, just.
Well, also, you were trying a speedrunner's trick that didn't work that was from the original version of this game.
I tried that too at first.
Because I watch speedruns of all games before we do them, before I finish them. A lot of times for the show, I just like to, because Awesome Games Done Quick will give you different commentary you would never hear otherwise, and it helps me have things to say about the game or understand the game better.
Sure.
And there's a trick they do in your end where they jump over water. But in the HD version, I think they change it where you have a double jump in this game, but they change it when you're over a death trap and he won't double jump. So you cannot make the trick. And I tried and tried and tried, could not do it. So yeah, I think they patched that out.
Yeah,
They patched out a lot of bugs in the HD version.
I would
Let's
say,
do
I
that.
think also just generally, like from a gameplay feel, again, especially for a 50-year-old game, I think it feels pretty fine. Like, I think, again, they did a big thing being like, oh, we're going to make this half first person, half third person. And for a controller, that, like, I think it could have been so much worse. And I'm, happy the game,
Mouse and
like,
keyboard.
just yeah, exactly. And I think just the movement, like, everything about this gameplay wise, I just like enough that I'm like, it surprisingly holds up. And I think that's a good thing for this game.
Yeah, it feels pretty solid overall, especially
It's
for
not
its age.
something you get to say every day.
Yeah,
for all
like
games.
the double jump is nice. The fact that they made these areas that were pretty wide in terms of like going from point A to point B, and then they went, "Hey, we're not going to give you a sprint button, but if you're just running for 3 seconds in third person, you will start sprinting." I was like, "That's a pretty, if you're not going to give me a button, that's probably the next best way to do it." So yeah, sure, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, just small stuff like that. That was nice.
Every good game has a double jump.
Mhm.
I mean,
Also,
Yeah.
the fact that the movement works so well, like it was identical in first person and third person, was neat. Like, it was nice to be like, oh, I can double jump, but it's not like weird. I don't know. That was something that I was like, I thought could be handled weird, but it was nice that it was like, oh, I can move around in first person like I'm running around in third person and like do that effectively. And I was like, that's neat.
I was surprised how well it switches and doesn't feel archaic to this day. Like it still felt. I mean, on keyboard it felt like shit, but it took after a while. I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad. I got the hang of it, but it still felt good. Just don't play the game off on keyboard. Do not play it that way. I will say that. I will never recommend that to anybody.
Same for my 10 minutes I did it. Don't do it.
It took me a while to like get good at it. But
Hey,
even that final section is tough.
Hunter, did you use a Game Pro or did you use the little Switch Joy-Cons?
yeah, I use the Pro Controller for everything.
Yeah, I tried. My batteries died, and I was like, oh well, the other batteries are in the basement. I think I'll just grab my Joy-Cons, and I had like the hardest like 30 minutes of my life to where I literally went, I'm gonna go ahead and get up. I'm gonna go use a bathroom. I'm gonna give me some water. I'm gonna go down the basement and get the batteries because this isn't working.
No, I bought my Switch day one, and I used the Joy-Cons for all of 20 minutes, and I was like, this isn't going to work. And I've had a Pro Controller ever since.
It's just wireless or wireless.
The wireless.
Okay, mine's the big green Zelda one.
Oh, nice.
I was also annoyed with the boss fights because this game doesn't. I mean, what game has lots of boss fights, but near the end you fight two like octopus thingies, like robotic octopuses. Is that a good way to describe them?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
big spider bot.
Yeah, they were annoying. You fight 4 and you can skip one of them. You can just run past. You can in the original version, the first one you see, there was a glitch in the game where when the cutscene is loading, you can skip the cutscene, the door's still open, run right through the door and just leave them, and nothing will happen. And just move on with the game. But I think they patched it because one of the guys that's in the credits was someone who found a tons of glitches in this game for speedrunners. He then worked with Just Add Water and told him, hey, you want to patch this out, patch this out, patch this out. And then he was the one that had him fix all the glitches and is in the credits for this game. I don't remember his name, but
That's
Boo to him.
hilarious. Yeah.
Who earns?
so yeah, he's the one that found most of the glitches and told him what to fix.
Someone's getting a hammer to their kneecap.
Because there's a glitch in that part where you're running up the hill with the sniper rifles and the timer, where if you go jump on the left side of a crate and then jump onto the thing, the snipers never spawn. And you run past the whole platform with no enemies.
Whew, I'm really like I'm just glad I didn't hate that part as much because like it wasn't
didn't mind
enjoyable. But I will say the same thing with those bosses. The first one was fine. Then I had to fight more. I was like, okay, I hope there's not too much more of this. I'd say I'm glad there wasn't more of them. 4 was enough, but I didn't hate them. I was just like, okay.
The
I'll
first
do this
one
again.
was very hard for me because I kept getting caught by the web and it told me that you can hit left, right on the mouse. Well, that worked like shit. I could not get it to work. But if I hit AD, I could get out fast. But with the mouse, I couldn't. I don't know if it was my mouse or I just could not. I couldn't do it. It was like, nope, ain't gonna work for you. So that was miserable. And then when I did the movement keys, I was able to get out okay. Because if you're in the web, because this guy will shoot a web at you, if he gets you in your web, he almost kills you instantly. He just starts beating on you, and you're dead really fast. I don't recommend it.
I almost snapped my Pro controller in half because that last 2 fight, I kept getting stun locked. And then I decided, well, maybe if I stay in first person while they're attacking me, I can just use the roly-poly on them multiple times. And that worked, so...
they weren't... When I fought the 2 of them, they weren't as bad as I thought they would be. They were much easier to deal with.
No, those 2 of them. And then Joe's rule of conduct, Mike, you're familiar with this because of my hatred of BioShock. If your final boss fight isn't at least 3 or 4 sections, your boss fight is awful. Your final boss fight's awful, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
This game kind of is.
Yeah.
Because you get into the big room, you fight the 2 spider bots, and then after you kill the 2 spider bots, then you have to fight the final boss, Secto, but he's in like a giant... He was annoying. He killed me a few times until I got the hang of him.
Yeah, he's like in a big robot. And like he just shoots like it. If you don't know where to look, he'll just one shot you with a laser. And I think I surprisingly made it out of one of those lasers alive. And I managed to find like the little hidey hole. And then I was able to get through it. I think it maybe took me like 2 or 3 tries, as opposed to the other 50 on the others.
The way I did it was I was able to. Well, I didn't realize this at first because while you're trying to break down his barriers. The trick is something will fall each time, and he had like these cement things would fall. I hide behind them, and there were 2 of them. I broke each of them, or he broke each of them. But then afterwards, he'll come back. I mean, they keep spawning, so you can use them again and again.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is I just was peeking around those corners and shooting, and then they break, and I just kind of run back and forth. And so I died like once or twice, but it wasn't terrible.
Because if you get caught by it, it's like instant death, and that sucked. I was very upset.
Yeah, and then finally the final twist, which again I thought was neat, was that like there was one other of your species and he was being controlled by the squid boss, and that was like the final reveal. And so he has a final line of like, "Are the waters free?" And you're like, "Yep, I did it." It's like, "Cool, I can die now. Thanks, bye." And then
really like
the squid dude gets away, and I was like, "Oh well, no sequel here. Sorry, game."
Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, "There's a part where he like rolls over. He walks up to Setco, and he sees that he's got legs, and he rolls him over." And he's obviously a Steve. His horns are cut off, which makes me think in like the openings where it shows Setco for the first time in the background. You see behind him is the first set of horns, and the other ones on the walls. The first set of horns behind him are probably the Steves he's controlling. I was like, I don't remember his head looking like that. And then I see the squid guy walk away, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, I wonder what that was. That's weird. But to be fair, it was also 6 a.m. and I was exhausted. So
yeah, I mean, honestly, it's pretty Final Flash. It's pretty bold to be like, yeah, we'll do a cliffhanger. This will come back. Like, especially with the where the studio was. I was like, damn,
I wish it did.
I mean, yeah, I think a sequel of this game could have been fun. I think kind of doing different ammo types, expanding on some of the stuff they already did. Maybe some, I don't know. I would say I felt like this game could be kind of linear feeling at times because, like, again, maybe those long hallways and running. I think kind of changing some of that up. I think another one could have just been even better. And even then, back then, this game was still received well. So, like, that's pretty impressive and would just, how things could have been.
I wish we would have got a sequel. I really do. And when I played through this again, I was like, man, it would have been fun to have more of this. To have something else that was really able to fine-tune this game.
Definitely.
We still could. I mean, they just made a sequel to Abe's Odyssey. The Summerfest was showing they're making a sequel to some 20-year-old game that came out on the PC that plays like Prince of Persia. I mean, sky's the limit. Who knows at this point?
Yeah, I mean, you are right. I mean, they do make stuff now. It's not like how it used. But I
feel like the original Abe games had a cult classic feeling to them and like memory, and that's what allowed them to come back. I don't think these games are held in any sort of like cult classic, which makes me sad because, like, again, Munch's Odyssey, basically Mike's Strangers Wrath is his, Munch's Odyssey. Mine's like, both these games are kind of interesting in their own ways. I wouldn't say they fit well alongside the original games, but like, it's just sad because I can't ever imagine them getting any sort of like love nowadays. I'm surprised that's why when you guys said you were playing on Switch, I was like, what? There's a Switch version? I was like, oh, it's the HD version. But okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a good, and it just came out very recently. It's a good version of it, though.
Yeah, so play it on Switch, play it on PC, don't play it on keyboard and mouse. That's the important takeaway.
Absolutely.
It wasn't.
I couldn't imagine. doing the mouse and keyboard.
It took a long while to
Same.
get used to. Like, I like playing first-person shooters on PC. Like, I was excited to play this on PC at first, on PC, because mouse and keyboard, because, I mean, it gives you the best aiming. And so I was excited. I started, and then it was when I had to keep switching to third person. The third person was very difficult to control with keyboard, especially when he's running at high speeds. That is a very interesting thing to control with the keyboard, by the way. Wasn't fun. I will say that. This was like the most I had to learn how to play a game, like learn how to control it out of any game that I played on this show, I think.
Wow.
Just because I was playing games. Yes, it is. Over 180 games at this point.
Movies thrown in there too. You know how it goes.
But just games wise, it's over 180 games. Easy. Oh, there's over 300 episodes of the show, so there's lots of stuff I've done in the name of this podcast. Any last things you want to say about this game before we go on to questions, comments, or memories? I got a few, but not a ton.
No, I think I'm good. I think I've hit my most important points.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, I'm good too.
Okay. I will pull that up. I didn't get as many as I was hoping to get, because I guess people just don't have the same love for this game. Maybe. Like, it's not as classic as some stuff that we play on this show, but all right. And from the first group, Oddworld Inhabitants, official group. I got from Alborz Ilani. This is the only Oddworld which I didn't play. Gonna try it soon. You really should. This is my favorite Oddworld game, but I only played 2, so. And I have not played much as Odyssey yet. Ooh, this is a long one, but I'm gonna read part of it. From McGregor Whitelaw. I have so many good memories of this game. I had watched my older sister play Abe's Odyssey and Abe's Exodus. I love watching the stories of these amazing games unfold. I first got into Oddworld myself playing Munch's Odyssey. There you go. I had played that game at least a dozen times. I loved everything about it. The gameplay, the story, the artwork. And let's see. And I kept seeing teasers for this new Oddworld game called Strangers Wrath. It sounded like something I had never dreamt of. I didn't know what it would be. All I had known was the platform games and puzzles that were presented in the first 3 games. The world was new and visually captivating in a way it felt very much seemed like it belonged to Oddworld. All right. And then he also says, I definitely replayed this game multiple times, even though it's a linear storyline. This game definitely has a lot of replay value. I would highly recommend to anyone who loves a good story-driven game, dead or alive, your ass is coming with me. And last one from this group, from Ariel Roldan, the only shooting game I like. Well, that's because this is a very different first-person shooter. This isn't like anything else that I can think of that I played.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet that person didn't like the last section. Because like I said, the last section is where it really feels like, oh, this is a shooter now at this point. You know, there's parts where you stop, but like when all the action, yeah. But everything up to that, yeah, it's very much this weird blend that it was like, I'm surprised how well it worked, and I'm happy it did.
Me too. And from Oddworld Slig posting, I got from Billy Jack Dominique, best FPS I've ever played, best Oddworld game too. Love the baddies, love the story. And then from David Greenman, literally completed this game a couple of days ago, never completed the first time it came out, the last good Oddworld game. Oh, that's saying something right there. If you must not like the 2 remake, or the remake and whatever Soulstorm is. I don't think Soulstorm's I think it's a brand new game. I just don't know.
I don't know.
All right. And then I watched the entire Oddworld replay, the place that all 4 of us met on, from Oakley Gleason. I have it on my Switch, but haven't played it yet. Maybe I should try that soon. You should. You really should. From Quentin Crow, it's a great game. And from Zach Harris, I really love this one. I played it back when it came out after already being a young Oddworld fan due to Abe, and it made me really appreciate a good story twist. I was 11. I love the Western atmosphere with the bounty hunting gameplay. The live ammo was a genius choice. Totally bummed it never got a continuation due to low sales, with the ending moments being very interesting. Right. From the official Laser Time community, I got 2. From Jason Heiser, I never played this and nearly shit myself the first time I saw it at GameStop. I love the Abe's Odyssey, the other Abe Oddworld game. Really want to give this a try sometime. You should. It's still worth playing. And from Kevin Don, I love this game. I played it on my friend's original Xbox back in 2005 and thought it was fantastic. I moved to Seattle the following year and didn't get to play it anymore, but I still thought about it from time to time. After I bought my first 360, I made it a point to hunt down a used copy of it at every used game store and pawn shop in town to no avail. It was virtually impossible to find. Any copies online were too expensive. After searching for 4 years, I finally found a copy. I was so excited. Oh, until I got home and found out the game was not backwards compatible. And he keeps putting other stuff, but I'm not going to read all that. But that's cool. And from the last group, Giant Bomb, I got 1 comment. From Andrew Lean, I love trying to do all the captures as well as the story reveal. Awesome game. Okay. I'm glad that most people have positive things to say about this game. That's nice to see.
Yeah, it's a very just familiar feeling. Because again, as I said, it was like, I knew this game existed back when I was a fan of Munch's Odyssey, but I never got the chance to play it. So I very much just have that similar feeling of like, it was nice to finally, you know, if you had any interest in this game back then, but never got a chance, it's still very worth sitting down and playing. especially if you liked other Oddworld games. I don't know about the originals, but definitely Munches. Like they go hand in hand really well.
You're making me want to play Munch's Odyssey finally.
It's going to be next on the list. Be careful.
It might be actually now, not anytime too soon, because I already have the whole rest of this year planned almost. But
yeah, the saddest thing with it, the PC port isn't good, and I would say it doesn't feel as solid as this. It feels fine, but there's parts where like because of how the environment works, it's easy to like slide off ledges and like die in a way that's gonna be annoying. But like this game, it's solid.
Save whenever you want to.
I think you can actually. Yeah, I think you can because
if you can, I'm on board. If you can't, not on board.
That was a big thing with some of the original Xbox games. Was like it was just like, hey, just save right here. And I remember a lot of them had that. I think that was one that did too.
Okay, because you had the hard drive. I mean, that was something that was so special at the time about the Xbox. You didn't need a memory card. You just have to bring this giant console with you instead. You know, you go to your friend's house like, hey, you want to play this game? Yeah, sure. I'll bring my whole Xbox if I can't bring just my memory card.
I still have an original Xbox brand carrying case for the original Xbox, and yeah, it's funny to like when you load it up. It's so especially the original Duke controllers. If you were to fit the console for Duke controllers and the cables, and with including using all the additional pockets, it would be full. You'd be like, well, I'm holding the games then because nothing else will fit in here.
I have an original Xbox behind me somewhere, but I'm never gonna play it again. I'm just waiting for Xbox emulation to exist in a workable manner.
It's getting there. Every day we're getting a little bit closer. I keep looking at it. I'll like look it up every few months. Like,
well, there's a couple titles I really want to play. This was one of them that I could play HD wise at least, but like I really want to play Breakdown for original Xbox. And I own a copy of it, but I can't beat it unless I cheat, and I can't cheat unless I can emulate it. So I'm kind of in a pickle. It's a really good game though. It will 100% be on the show. First day I can, well, the first few months I can finally play it on PC. It will be on the show. It's a first-person shooter. That's very, very cool. All right. And then before we go on the shelf, I think we should do a giveaway because I got too many damn codes. I need to give away some. So here's a Steam code for Gone Home plus the original soundtrack. The Steam code is K8PBAX4ATEM9BZJ. There's your Steam code for Gone Home.
Thanks.
That I've had for way too long.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks.
I can't believe it worked.
Should work. I have so many codes. I still have over 20 some codes to give away. So I try to do it every so often. I just don't think about it. It's all the Fanatical bundles I buy because I love Fanatical bundles.
They're really cheap.
Yes. Exactly. All right, let's go to Shelf Stacker Box, and I'll go first. This is a game I'm going to put on the shelf. Once I got the hang of the controls, I had a really fun time playing it. It brought back some good memories. I remember the twist, but I didn't remember a lot of this game. But I enjoyed it. I mean, I got angry, but once I understood more what I was doing, I had a good time. It still holds up, and I was happy to say that because it doesn't always happen. And I liked the first three quarters of the game better than when you no longer get an ammo because that money drive helped me more than the ammo drive. So, but it's still going to go on the shelf. I still had a great time. What about you, Joe?
I'm going to go ahead and put this in the box. It's a good game. I'm not going to say it's bad because usually, if it's bad, I would say it's bad. I wouldn't pick any of the options. But I feel like this is one of those games where if I pick this up, it probably won't be for a good long time. And it'll probably be because someone probably told me they've never played it. Like if it ever comes back to where they decide they actually are going to make a sequel, it's there.
And what about you, Star?
Yeah, I'd also put it on the shelf.
Okay.
One of the reasons similarly, but for the opposite is I like the last part of the game where it's like, oh, I'm just sucking up dudes for ammo. It's a nice way to get ammo. But like, yeah, besides that, I said like, I would put Odyssey on the shelf and I'd put this next to it. And I think they're just a great little pair of games that are very different than I just can't think of many things that are similar to them. And the writing is really fun. And it's just, yeah, really solid.
All right. What about you, Hunter?
Yeah, I'd do the shelf as well.
Okay.
It's just a unique experience that, between the writing and the gameplay, there aren't too many games out there like it. So I think it's something more people need to experience.
Okay. And I'm also glad that thanks to me, you guys, 3 people got to play this game that probably wouldn't have played it otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely.
That feels good. I'm also the only one that has any nostalgic for it. I think that plays a part in it too. Well, at least for me and Joe. Why Joe didn't like it.
Oh, I liked it. Like I said, I probably wouldn't play this for a long time. Like maybe
I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
I haven't played this in. I think I don't know. My son was even born the last time I played this game. My son's 14.
Yeah,
So
that's
I think he
kind
probably
of
would have been, but I don't know.
That's how it's been with Munch's Odyssey. I think since the first time I played it, back when I was probably like 12 or 13, I've maybe played it 2 or 3 times. And I think the second time was just because, hey, I never beat that because I was a kid. And so, it's not common. But I do like picking it up every now and then. In this game, I almost see myself doing a similar thing because I feel like just going from Munch's to this, it feels very, right in a way, even though they're completely different gameplay styles and whatnot.
And there were 2 Oddworld games that we were supposed to get. One, I remember a cover story in Game Informer that had something to do with the guy who had rabies, and it looked really dark, and I remember being excited for it, but it never happened. I don't remember what the other one was, but there were multiple canceled projects that happened in between after this game came out and we finally got New and Tasty. I also think New and Tasty was I think the development is, because it was a different company that made this, I know that. I don't know if Oddworld's still around. I'm not sure.
I'd say it is, because with New and Tasty coming out and them also technically making a sequel, and I think New and Tasty actually did really well too.
Okay, yep, they're still around.
Yeah, so who knows? People love comeback stories and comeback games too. So
yeah, I mean, I'm hoping it will get more. I mean, Oddworld is not a place not a series I have a lot of love for. Just this game. So that's why there hasn't been any more on the show for 100-some episodes. So, and I should mention what we're going to be talking about next week. Next week, I'm going to be playing a game that I really like but haven't touched in years. Also, Life is Strange, published by Square Enix. That's what I'm playing next for this show.
Oh gosh, that's so cool! I'm actually really excited. I love that game. It's one of my favorite
I love
games.
that game too.
Top 5.
I can't wait
That's
to
a
listen.
great game.
I can't wait to listen to your choices and judge you on them later.
All I'm going to say, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one.
Oh, I'm already mad at you.
Yes, you are.
I can't believe you choose the Bay over the Bay. How dare you?
Oh, and if you want to hear our first impression of an Oddworld game, Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, episode 47. My God, that's a long time ago for this show.
A long time ago.
It's just funny because sometimes it takes me years to get around to something, but then you look at the Tomb Raider games. I did Tomb Raider 2013, and I did Tomb Raider Rise of Tomb Raider 11 episodes later. And now I'm not doing the other one until late this year for Shadow. Because I'm I should not play another one this close together.
One day I'll beat Shadow. Today's not that day, though.
I want to. I'm really excited to finally play Shadow and get that off my list, because I've been wanting to finish that series. And now I'm actually interested in playing Munch's Odyssey, but I just don't know if that's going to happen. But I'm interested. But I have no nostalgic for a star, so we'll see how that goes when I get there. It might not be pretty. Oh, and Hunter, where can people find you at?
If you go over on YouTube, VGX7 is the YouTube channel. You can also find me on Twitter at VGX7Hunter. That's the best way to find me.
All right. And Star, did you have anything to plug? Okay. And if you enjoyed this episode, you can find all our other episodes on Podbean. Everything is on Podbean. If you can't find what you're looking for on Spotify or iTunes, everything's on Podbean or Podcast Addict is another one where you can get all our episodes, because Spotify, iTunes only go back 100 episodes, and we have over 300, almost 350. Getting there. Getting so close. So there's a ton of content for you to listen to. We do movies, we do game, we do comics, we do TV seasons if they're shorter and premium shows. But we do tons of stuff for you to listen to. So definitely go check all that out. I want to give an awesome shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Has Free. You can follow her on TikTok. She made our music. Also want to give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, who did the MCU episode with me and is on the show quite often. He started his own podcast, The Gamer Looks at 40, where he digs deep into, he talks about people in their life and how games affected them and things of that nature. I can't describe the way he describes it, but it's a very good show. Definitely go check it out. You will enjoy it. Lots of interviews, and he puts on a lot of good content. So check him out. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. We are on YouTube. Only audio, but we're there. And if you want to support the show, we do have a Patreon. For as little as $1, you can vote in our Patreon poll. We currently have one, which is the runner-up poll, where I pulled 4 losers from before and bring them another chance to try again. It is Turtles for TMT Forever, Loki Season 1, Amazing Spider-Man. I cannot remember that 4th one I put on there. I can't remember. For as little as $1, you can vote in our poll. How about the show? And you help choose what episodes will come out when they come out. So definitely go do that. And I think that's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody. Bye.